So we're really excited about the next chapter in Rhoback, which is kind of going back to our roots, which is bringing the customer back to the people in person. And so we're in the future, the near future, we're going to open up our own brick and mortar stores. We'll start here in Charlottesville, get the product out in front of people. As you know, we've been e-com for the past 8 to 9 years, almost 100%. So this would kind of going back to our roots where we sold in the camper, having our own store here in Charlottesville where we started is very exciting, and we look forward to it.
In a corporate world where all employees have great leaders with no egos that create fun cultures where people can do their best work, the employees and companies thrive while doing great things for the customers, themselves, and each other.
Well, we know that rarely happens. I'm Jeff Palacio. I have been a leader for over 40 years for every t-shirt size company, from small 16 employees to extra large over 1 million. Please join me while I interview outstanding leaders that will share stories of great leadership and not so great. It will help you become a better leader while poking fun at all the crazy shit that happens in corporate America.
Hi, I'm Joe Deshawn, and welcome to the Corporate Couch with Jeff Palacio. Today's episode is brought to you by Palacio and Partners, providing turnkey podcast creation, hosting, production, promotion, and related creative resources for you and your business. Today, Jeff is interviewing Kristina and Matt Loftus. Kristina and Matt co-founded Rhoback with one of Matt's college friends in 2015. Rhoback is a major manufacturer and retailer of exclusive high-end activewear. Currently available only through their website at rhoback.com, there are plans to soon take the Rhoback brand into brick-and-mortar retail stores. The Rhoback name was inspired by the couple's Rhodesian Ridgeback dog. You can learn more about Kristina and Matt at rhoback.com. Let's listen as Jeff talks to Kristina and Matt.
Kristina and Matt, welcome to the Corporate Couch today.
Jeff, thanks for having us on.
Oh, man, this is a bunch of firsts. Matt, I've known you since birth. You're our first married couple that's been on the podcast, and the first in the full edition of the Corporate Couch, 2 guests. So this is going to be fun. You have a great story with Rhoback, and can't wait to really probe on how you guys met and who said I love you first and all that good stuff. I know you guys are pretty active out there on your socials and all that, especially in the early days. But what would people that know you fairly well would surprise them about you? What each of you, what would be a fact that, not many people know?
Kristina, you want to go first? I can go first if you want. Oh, you know what? I'll say
one for you, Matt.
Oh, wow.
Okay, I'll say one for you.
He would never say this about himself because it would be kind of bragging a little bit. Matt's really good at golf, and he was the best amateur golfer in Connecticut growing up. He won that tournament, and
he was a amateur junior champion at 15 years old, Matt?
Yeah, you got it. That was my peak. All downhill from there.
Yeah, and you also golfed several times with a fellow Davidson classmate, Steph Curry, I've heard.
That's right. Yeah. I went to Davidson hoping I could walk on the team, but I think it was a blessing in disguise. I didn't, because I got to play with Steph a few times. He hasn't returned my calls in maybe 10 years, but one day we'll get him.
I heard also that you actually went head to head with them, and they went down to the 18th hole. But who won those? That's what I can't find out. Did you beat him?
Yeah. So it was my first week at Davidson. He was 1 year ahead of me. My friend from high school knew his roommate, so we got paired up playing golf, and we ended up having a battle. So we got down to the 18th hole. It was a par 3, and this was before Steph went crazy at Davidson, before that big year he had. And Steph turns to me on the tee box, and he's like, "Hey, you're definitely going to win this match. I'm not clutch at all." And then he proceeds to stick one to like 3 feet. I put one off the green. He wins the match. So he beats me, and it was great because then he would call me whenever he wanted to have like a competitive round. But later that year, of course, they made the Elite Eight, and Dick Vitale said Steph is the most clutch basketball player he's ever seen in college. So I think he was just trying to get under my skin, or maybe he had come into his own later, but it was a fun.
And you obviously have golf with your father many times. Is that true, Matt?
That's right. Yeah. Early on, he got me into the game.
Yeah.
And very appreciative.
You did
of
say
that.
in an interview I saw that Steph was the nicest person you ever played golf with. So he's nicer than your father, your Steph.
Yeah, he definitely is. So it's fun to see Steph, become the idol and that he is, because he really deserves it.
So what are you going to say about Kristina? And
yeah, I've had some time to think about it now. Two quick things. I was going to say an athletic feat to start too, but Kristina played field hockey in college. She kicks my butt in really any sport that requires, anything outside something that requires height or golf. She beats me in. And then another thing, Kristina, not many know about Kristina, is I think she's naturally an introvert. She runs, she's responsible for starting Rhoback. She was the first one on it full time. She does so much, manages so many people here, but she's more of a natural introvert. So it's I think that's always something that she, figures out, I guess, as she goes, but I'm always impressed with that.
Yeah, on the info sheet you sent me, she's also a local soccer legend. Talk about that a little bit.
I played my whole life. Love soccer. It's my favorite sport. I think before college was getting a little burnt out, so I went the field hockey route. I thought I'd get in a better college playing field hockey. But I still play soccer. Oh. I play in some adult leagues in Charlottesville. Right. Not right now with my kids being so little, but I hope to get back into it.
Yeah, love that. So talk about, you guys met at GE, right? So talk a little bit, and Matt, I know you worked at Accenture for a little bit too, but talk about kind of the evolution. Like most people that work at big companies like a GE, Accenture, you're not thinking about starting a business so soon. Like you really did it very quickly. I mean, Kristina, I don't know if you were there, several years and then moved on to Rhoback, but talk about the evolution of where the idea came from. And
but I want to give a quick plug to GE because me and Matt both went through their finance program. It was called Financial Management Program. The skills we learned when we were there, you don't realize it at the time, but it goes so far in your career. Just kind of knowing how to use Excel and PowerPoint and how to speak to people and write an email and accounting. We learned so much at GE. So I just want to give GE some props there for kind of creating such a great program, a training program for people right out of college.
Yeah, and I think pretty quickly, Kristina and I realized we didn't want to be kind of back office for our lives. Such a great training ground, to Kristina's point. We were entrepreneurs at heart. Kristina was running multiple social media platforms at the time, kind of moonlighting, making money on the side. So she was just a natural entrepreneur. I like to follow my dad's lead. He was an entrepreneur, so I kind of always had that itch. I always wanted to do something on my own because I got to see what he did in the construction industry. And then Kevin, our co-founder, he's a natural entrepreneur too. I met him at Davidson. We were always trying to start businesses together. Then, luckily, we didn't jump on any of the terrible ideas we had. Kristina and I at GE, we always challenged ourselves to find a way to start a business so that we could almost escape the corporate life. So then that kind of brought us to, hey, what's a natural next step where we could be in an environment where we could find something we love and we could start, and that was business school. We didn't know at the time what that would bring, but it ended up being a great decision, and that's kind of the breeding ground for when we started to experiment in this retail space, which, if you'd like, we can kind of tell that story.
Yeah. Just hold off one second. I have a quick story about Jack Welch, the famous CEO of, and it involves both your dad and your Uncle Bill, Bill Loftus.
Legends.
Legends. Oh yeah. Big shout outs. I forget what country club you guys belong to. Silver Springs, was it, in Richfield?
That's right.
They had the member guest, so it was your dad and Bill, and they played a member who brought Jack Welch. And that, after about 3 holes, Bill, they're typical chatting throughout. Bill asked Jack, "So Jack, what do you do for a living?" And he was the CEO of GE, and I thought that was just a classic line.
Yeah, I think later on that match, because I've heard this story many times, They eventually were playing for, hey, Jack, if I win, you host me at your club, maybe Augusta, whatever it is. You win, and I'll bring you to Nyack Field Club. We'll have a day at the pool on me. But great,
be like
great story.
Caddyshack, they get 15 minutes from 1 to 1:15
Yeah.
at Nyack. But talk about building it. And did you have the idea when you enrolled at Darden, or talk about the origin?
Yeah, I can start, but Kristina could jump in, cut me off. Yeah. When I went to business school here in Charlottesville, that's where we're at now, at UVA Darden, I was 1 year ahead of Kristina. Kevin was in DC working on the Hill, and we were all kind of entrepreneurs. I had the role of bringing those two together to form this kind of triumvirate, which has been awesome, growing the company. At the time, we were running this Instagram account. Believe it or not, it was just a prank Instagram account. This is how we kind of dipped our toes into the retail or apparel world. And we were working with all these brands, and they were, early days of influencers on Instagram or creators. This was back in 2014. We asked these brands for free product. In exchange, we would create marketing material for them or take photos of us playing sports or being active or funny videos. It was really just an experimental thing, kind of like moonlighting at night. And we started to get some traction. The biggest brand we worked with at the time really started supporting us, and we were trying out their clothes. We were trying out so many different, brands' clothes, and we just found we were sweating through everything that we tried on. We loved the brands, say Nike or what Under Armour was doing at the time to challenge Nike. We loved those kind of classic sportswear brands, but they were kind of all following the same playbook and sponsored the best, biggest athletes, kind of following Nike's playbook and really shoe focused. We saw these golf brands at the time. Golf was a part of our lives, but they were really targeting, one demo, no offense, Jeff, but, the 50 to 60-year-olds kind of audience specifically through pro shops. We thought the fit was not catered to a, 25 to 35-year-old guy. In terms of designs, we thought there was room to be had in terms of creativity or prints. So, and then at the same time, all of our female friends, especially Kristina, was just stockpiling Lululemon. They were clearly doing something different. They were bringing a new fabric and quality into the world of athleisure. That term hadn't even been used at the time. So we just thought in the middle of these three worlds, there was so much opportunity. And we saw the impact we had with just our little Instagram account on these brands. We were getting great feedback. We were building this loyal community. And that's when the environment was perfect to attempt starting a lifestyle activewear brand. So I was kind of in my second year at business school. Kristina was starting her first year. Kevin was 2 hours away. And that's when we just went all out. All of our friends, family, talked to everyone we could possibly know in retail or had done it before. We had no idea what we were doing. We had zero experience in retail, but I think that being that naive was a little bit of our superpower. We were willing to listen to everyone. We were willing to explore everything and challenge the traditional industry model. So that's kind of how it came about. That's when we started to build our website, build our brands, create our creed, what we stood for. And the toughest thing at that point was just how do we make product that's as good or better than the Lululemons of the world or the Peter Millars of the world, whoever it may be. That was the next step and the hardest step, but that was kind of the environment. Kristina, I don't know if you want to add to it.
No, yeah, that was perfect summary. And we were in business school kind of catering every class to building out the business plan. We leveraged our networks, all of our friends and the students at Darden to feel fabrics and help us find the perfect fabric to create that first iteration of product. And the brand was inspired by our dog Bunker, who's been scratching at the door, which is why Matt just got up. He's just as old as Rhoback is. He's a Rhodesian Ridgeback, has a ton of energy, and he is the inspiration behind the brand, and dogs in general are the inspiration. They crave activity. They constantly want to be outside, having fun, running around, and that was kind of what inspired us to create a brand for people that crave activity.
Matt, growing up, did you have a Rhodesian Ridgeback as one of your dogs? I can't remember.
We had labs, and we love labs. We love all dogs. They've been a big part of both of our lives. I met one of my friends was doing volunteer work in South Africa, and luckily got to go visit him out there. And the family we stayed with had Rhodesian Ridgebacks, and I just thought they were the coolest dogs. They're lion hunters. They're fierce, but they're playful. They're active. When we were starting the brand, we thought, we wanted to have our dog logo. We had our puppy Rhodesian Ridgeback at the time, and we didn't want to make it as sleek and slick as, say, a Nike logo or an Under Armour logo, some of those sportswear brands. We didn't want to make it as like some of these more lifestyle brands that had big animal filled in logos. So that was our mascot we were going to ride, and that was our dog Bunker. Yeah. That's the logo you're wearing now. Right. Kind of sleek, but also has some personality to it.
We're going to reveal that I'm going to be the 60-plus male model for Rhoback coming up. It's going to be a big announcement for the Christmas season here in 2025. It's going to be, we're going to blow it out of the water.
Nice.
As long as you crave activity, doesn't matter what age, what gender, anything, we'll take you.
Yeah, I like that. And some of the early days I read that, you were kind of creating Under Armour meets Vineyard Vines. So I love that. And maybe, Kristina, talk about that a little bit, as well as like you were employee number one. And what was that like in terms of, kind of setting the stage for the future?
It was a lot of researching and YouTube videos on how to kind of build a foundation. So quickly found out that Shopify was, the platform we needed to use to sell product. And I learned how to, build a website pretty quickly. They make it really easy. Learned a little coding here and there to kind of make it. I was the website person until like 3 years ago, which probably shouldn't have been that way, but learned website and coding. Also learned Photoshop, Illustrator. So was doing the designs. I'm more of like the techie person, and Matt and Kevin are more of like the creatives. I would take their visions and kind of put it into practice on like Photoshop or the website or Illustrator. And so that was kind of like building the foundation, and then the whole operation of fulfillment, just kind of learning that and fulfilling all the packages by hand alone during the day, while also being on the road selling out of our camper up and down the East Coast. So like kind of juggling building the foundation and also learning how to sell. Being an introvert was an interesting experience and something I really valued, because it definitely was outside my comfort zone. But I learned so much about our customer, and I learned how to be a salesperson and the right words and the right like things to say to kind of get people's attention. A lot of it came down to getting the fabric in front of people and having them feel it. And then, they realized how high quality the fabric was and how comfortable it was. And that was a gateway into kind of allowing them to learn more about the brand. And so we're really excited about the next chapter in Rhoback, which is kind of going back to our roots, which is bringing the customer back to the people in person. And so we're in the future, the near future, we're going to open up our own brick and mortar stores. We'll start here in Charlottesville, get the product out in front of people. As you know, we've been e-com for the past 8 to 9 years, almost 100%. So this would kind of going back to our roots where we sold in the camper, having our own store here in Charlottesville where we started is very exciting, and we look forward to it.
I'm familiar with the camper campaign. I don't know what year that was. You did an East Coast tour, but talk a little bit of that, because that was like guerrilla marketing at its best.
That was fun. So me and Bunker would take Matt's truck with the camper on the back up and down the East Coast, and Matt and Kevin would fly on the weekend because they were still working their real jobs during the day. So they'd fly, meet me on the weekends. We'd sell, with all three of us. And then during the week, I would sell at kind of whoever would allow us to. And we worked out a deal with Eden's. It's a company that manages properties like strip malls or like Whole Foods, where Whole Foods, you see Whole Foods or other like shopping centers. They allowed us to sell in front of their shopping centers, and we would give them, I think, 10 to 15% of our sales. I don't think they realized that maybe we would only sell a hat one day or, a polo here and there, but they wanted to support us because they saw, potential in us, and they believed that one day we would open stores, in Eden's properties, which, is a very real scenario now. And we thank them so much for believing in us early on. they would host us up and down the East Coast. And we went as far south as Florida and as far north as Nantucket. We put the camper on a barge to Nantucket and brought it on the island and sold in front of a store, one of the stores there. And that was really fun.
That's very cool. You know what? You mentioned Kevin Hubbard, the co-founder, and Matt, your longtime friend from Davidson. It's just so interesting. So I've interviewed like 160-ish people on my podcast, and I've done other podcasts for other companies. And I'll have to say, you're the most unassuming founders that I've ever. I mean, you said a bio, which is a bunch of about 4 or 5 bullets and some logos, and there's nothing about you on the website itself. And your LinkedIn is kind of just sparse. I even wonder who's the CEO, if that even matters. I saw one article where Kristina was named the CEO. That was like in 2017. But talk about that. Was that a purpose? Was that like, I'm going to do this, and because that's what we are as people. So talk about that.
I can go first, Kristina, but I think we've naturally, maybe what attracted us to each other is we don't really lead with ego. That the business has never been about us. The coolest part has been now recruiting way more talented people than at least me, but the 3 of us into Rhoback and seeing them take the brand to the next level. So it's been intentional, to strip out ego from the brand or strip out, making this brand about the 3 of us. But I do think it's kind of natural too for the 3 of us. I do think it's there are times where it sets us back, like where it'd be nice if one of us were, making noise on socials or had tons of followers or whatever, was a big time influencer or athlete. I think Kristina could be that. I think she's got that. I think Kevin could too. But I think it's just more natural for us to kind of take a little bit more of a backseat and just go all out on the business, on the product, on our team. So I think it does help create a great culture. But also there are times where, we're at a disadvantage when we go up against a brand that's got a super star-studded founder or CEO or investor, whatever it may be.
Yeah, our team's encouraging us to put ourselves more out there. But it is definitely outside of our comfort zone. We started the brand with the ridge on the back of the collar of the polo so that we wouldn't have to show our faces because we were the only models at the time. Like that's just part of our like DNA. Is like we don't love to be, the center of attention. But we're happy to, we like doing podcasts and like sharing our story. It's fun.
Well,
it's fun to talk about Rhoback. It's like we're really proud of it.
Yeah, no, you should be. I really just remember a lot of the early IG Instagram reels were just the trick shots and were just fantastic. And I've been invited, but I haven't been to your mom and dad's place in Defusky Island. But I noticed that there was a lot of it was filmed down there. But all the trick shots, I mean, it was crazy, like in the pool and all that. How did you guys, who came up with those ideas and who'd you get to do them?
Matt and Kevin, they dream so big. A lot of our team have amazing ideas too. But in the beginning, it was just really the 3 of us and a bunch of creators that agreed to come to Defusky with us. And they all were like, let's try this, let's try that. And Matt was like, hey, I'll do it. And he was part of a lot of the content that you're seeing, and Kevin too. And, I might've been behind the camera, but they're really doing the acrobatics with the help of some creators from Instagram that took a chance on us at the very beginning.
Kristina was coordinated. She was we were puppets. Kristina was just instructing us what to do. She's not giving herself enough credit on the creativity front. But part of our background was creating content for brands. Mm-hmm. So that was like, if we had one thing going for us going into this, that was the one thing where we knew we could stick out. Right. That was in our DNA. So it was just, once it was our brand, once we had a creator or friends that we could get on that island where there was no police who could bother us. We were getting kicked out everywhere we could. But once we got to that island, it was like a safe space. We could dream up the impossible. We got an FPV drone pilot who was willing to take a chance on us and give us a deal. So we would just dream up any kind of trick shot involving any sport And it was so much fun creating it. And then we started to see the results. We publish these videos or put them out there, and we tried to pretend we weren't an activewear or athleisure brand on Instagram so that accounts would repost us and not ask us for money, to repost us. So we were starting to kind of gain some organic traffic from these creative videos, and no one knew what we were. They just thought we were just some kind of like creative account. It wasn't until years later when we started to actually promote the product. But I think that was one of our competitive advantages that made us stick out, is we really have never, until recently, talked about the product on our socials. We were just focused on creating this world of Rhoback that's all around craving activity and being creative.
Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic. I remember one reel campaign. I don't know if it was the Ryder Cup. Matt, you were dressed up as like Uncle Sam.
Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln. Oh my God, it was hysterical.
Those were early days. We're tempted to do it this year at Bethpage. But yeah, we did everything we could to get eyes on the brand. But it was, I would dress up as Abraham Lincoln. Kevin would dress up as George Washington. Kristina would film us just being ridiculous at these tournaments, interacting with the players. And no one really knew we were part of Rhoback. We'd just post it all on that IG.
Yeah, I love it. You talked about culture, and I think the first step in building a great culture is recognizing you should and need to, right? And but who are some of your mentors in terms of, any models, whether people, books that you follow to kind of build that great culture?
For me, it comes kind of internally from, mentors that I've had working at GE or Accenture. And then, my dad's a big one I look up to. Very different world in construction. He had to do things way differently.
Yeah, for sure.
But there are a couple managers that I had that and I've stuck with me and Kristina and Kevin, and they've been huge kind of cheerleaders for us, stripping out ego, encouraging me to take chances, and promoting, an environment where you can strike out and it's no big deal. Like, keep bringing big ideas to the table, keep taking chances, bring ideas that you think are going to get fired for. Granted, they wouldn't listen to them 20% of the time, or 80% of the time, but the 20% they did, they were impactful. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to kind of bring that with us, or at least I wanted to, in my role at Rhoback.
Early on, we listened to Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. And one story told was going to meet his manufacturers. Matt, was that in Japan where he went?
Yeah, Japan, yeah.
And he preached that they didn't work for him. It was a partnership. And when he went, it was more like convincing them to work with Phil and not the other way around. And that right. partnership and like that relationship idea, and like we're working together to mutually benefit, is a culture that I think we have here at Rhoback. Like, everybody works together. People don't work for us. We work for them. That's kind of the culture that we're trying to like create here at Rhoback. We work for our employees. It's not the other way around. So like reading that early on, we took that same philosophy with our manufacturers. We were really inspired by Phil Knight's book. To this day, we have an incredible relationship with our manufacturers, and they've helped us throughout the years, specifically during COVID, when it felt like the world was ending. They were so supportive in helping us create cloth face masks and, take that step where Americans weren't wearing cloth face masks. They encouraged us, hey, this is going to happen. We'll help you. You will take the risk with you. We'll manufacture these for you. And it happened to be a driving force behind a huge customer acquisition model that not only did we help people in the healthcare field, because we donated tons of masks at that time to people in healthcare, but we sold thousands of masks at cost, didn't make any money, to thousands of customers. And so we were able to just express the brand to such a bigger group of people while also helping others out because of that relationship with our manufacturers and because of the trust we built with them through that partnership.
Are you drowning in boring corporate communications? Palacio and Partners is here to rescue you. We transform internal podcasts from snooze fest to must-listen content that actually connects your team and strengthens your culture. Imagine podcast episodes that make your employees laugh while staying informed. Our founder, Jeff Palacio, doesn't just create podcasts. He creates conversations that break through the noise. Whether you're a growing startup or a massive corporation, we turn your company's story into audio gold. Leadership becomes human. Remote teams feel connected. Your message cuts through the clutter. Palacio and Partners, where corporate communications gets a fun makeover. Let's make your podcast work harder than your email inbox ever could. Jeff is happy to share his insights on podcasting with you. You can contact him via LinkedIn or schedule a Zoom call via the link in the episode description.
I think, words mean things. So, the companies or people that call their suppliers vendors versus those that call them business partners are two different worlds, because they are business partners, and it's a relationship, right? You're not, vendors are, a lot of companies, so you're my vendor, you do what I say, yada, yada. But so I love that. I haven't asked this in a long time as we've got farther and farther away from COVID, but I'd like to ask you guys, just because the company was so young and COVID hits. And so, yeah, you're doing a great thing, supplying masks to people. But, what was some of the, oh, my God, how'd you get through that period?
We were selling maybe 20 to 40 items a day. Then, as Kristina said, our manufacturers helped us put together a cloth face mask that we thought stood up against any other cloth face mask out there, double-sided, antimicrobial on the inside, or on the outside, cotton on the inside. Had adjustable ear straps, had a nose wiring that adjusted on your nose. So they really helped us think through the perfect cloth face mask. Then they told us, hey, you got to have this ready. Everyone's going to start wearing cloth face masks. We thought they were crazy for saying that. We're like, no way anyone in the U.S. will wear a cloth face mask. And we listened to them. We trusted them. They had it teed up, ready to go. They said their capacity was 1 million cloth face masks they could make in a month. The day that CDC recommended that consumers start wearing and purchasing cloth face masks, we were ready to go. We had it published. We got a ton of press and media. And over that weekend, we sold 250,000 cloth face masks at cost. So that just rocked our operations. We had to turn off orders. We wanted to make sure we could deliver. And that was just a first step in a big growth scale. It got us ready. It prepped our operations. We were able to ship everything within 1 month. We're very proud of coming through for our customer base there. And then after that, of course, COVID hit and sales started to slow down. That was one thing that put us back on offense. All of a sudden, now our goal was to convert these 250,000 masks we sold. Now we got to convert those purchasers to buying a hoodie or buying a polo or buying, shorts, whatever it may be.
Right.
Overnight, our email list quadrupled. Our customer base was, multiplied, but it was now a shift from how we would bring those customers kind of through the life cycle of Rhoback product. So that was a big one. And then I think there was a little bit of, we were in the right place at the right time. Fast forward a few months, now customers were not, people, the world was not going to work. They were working from home. They were signing on to Zoom. They could get away wearing a performance polo or a performance hoodie to work. They were trying to play golf more. They were being outside more. They wanted to be active more. So we were in the right place at the right time with a small, growing athleisure lifestyle activewear brand. Now our product was in demand, and we went all out, developing more products, hiring more people. I wish we were a little bigger going into it. You look at brands, say like Vuori, they were positioned so well going into COVID. And, of course, COVID brought so much devastation, ruined so many people's lives. But there was, in terms of the athleisure lifestyle activewear demand, that actually increased through COVID. So our brand actually saw some natural traction, in the couple years following, I think because of the work from home environment and the desire to be more active after.
Yeah, and it forced us to level up our operations. So then we could grow and we could scale faster because we could print more labels. We had more fulfillment personnel. We were, able to retarget in a more efficient way because we had to learn that quicker through, our email platform and Meta. And so it also forced us off the road, forced us out of the camper because nobody was having events anymore that we could sell at. So we learned, Kevin got really good at digital ads during that year, which helped us scale tremendously.
Yeah, so interesting. You started with just men-only clothing, correct? And when did you kind of make the pivot to kind of compete in the women's sportswear athleisure?
Yeah, we started focused on men's. We had like the women's version of the men's we had the Q-zip and the polo, but we didn't put a lot of focus on it until about 2 years ago. We introduced a dedicated women's line, which we're really proud of. And we're adding to it in big ways coming in the fall and into 2026 and 2027. It's growing right now, growing a little faster than men's, which is awesome. It's still a small part of the business, but it's impressive given, the limited selection we even have on the website. And so we're really excited about it. We think it's one of the biggest growth engines for the brand, one of the biggest ways we can scale into the future. For me, it's exciting because I'm wearing a prototype right now. I'm able to finally help design into things that I would wear. And so we're just really excited about the future of women's, and then scaling into wholesale and brick and mortar and being able to express that brand, the women's side, a little more equally to men's in person.
I'd love you guys to share. For another podcast for a company I used to represent and do their podcast, I interviewed a woman that was a business partner with her husband. So, talk about, what's the best thing about working together every day?
I get to see Kristina 24/7. I get to learn from her, be around her. It's like, I of course married her so I could, live with her and spend my life with her. But it's 24/7 and it's amazing. I think also too, Rhoback is so all consuming, especially in our early years, that it would have been really tough, if Kristina was doing it on her own and I wasn't doing it, or vice versa, to not share those experiences or understand when we're staying up late or getting up early or flying to see manufacturers or going to some golf tournament. It was complete trust, understanding, and covering for each other. And I think Kevin, us being so close, Kevin's, my best friend, from back in the Davidson years, just us all being there for each other and having a bigger understanding of we're in this together. But it's been really fun. Kevin's also been helpful at times. If it was just me and Kristina, it'd be 50-50. We'd have to make decisions and fight over, what decision we make. I normally just listen to Kristina, and Kevin coming in at, the three of us, if two of us agree on something, we just keep moving and running. There's no hard feelings. We're passionate about our decisions, but it's nice balance with three of us where two people can't get held up or stuck on a decision too.
Yeah. And I think all three of us are very different, and our differences complement each other. Our strengths complement each other. And I think it's very rare that we clash. And when we do, it's like a quick decision, like, okay, let's go with your gut on this one and move on. Like, we all just respect each other's strengths and positions so much that it just allows us to move quicker and be more nimble in our decisions and in the business.
So I'll ask you, Kristina, what would you like, what's a pain in the ass for you to work every day with Matt?
Oh, believe it or not, we don't talk enough during the day because we're so busy. So we're kind of like ships passing through the night throughout the day, and then we don't get to like debrief until after our kids are sleeping. So even though we see each other 24/7, we don't ever get to like debrief on things personal or like business until like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. That's tough, but it's, that's our life, and we're fine. We're fine with it. It works.
Well, talk about the change in both of you once you have two children, when you started to have kids, and how that, I mean, I don't believe in work-life balance because it's just life, right? Some parts is work, some parts, your personal life. But talk about, what was the biggest change in both of you once you started to have kids in terms of your leadership and how you kind of went to work every day?
The most obvious change was that we weren't at work until like 9 p.m. anymore. We had to be home at 5:30 to get our kids. That was like the quickest and most obvious change. And I think it's good for our culture. We have a lot of folks here that have kids, parents. And so people are encouraged to have, a regular work-life balance. And I agree. The word balance is just, it doesn't actually, it's hard to be balanced. You just have to pick and choose and make sacrifices every single hour of the day. That's kind of what we take it hour by hour. That's the biggest change, but also like there's just this other part of our life that's so important and the most important to us that we want to make more time for our personal lives because our kids are so fun and make us so happy. And they inspire us to be more efficient and better at our jobs.
Matt, anything to add to that?
I think weekends before we had kids, it was truly 24/7. Every weekend we would have to find a way to add value to Rhoback, whether that be going somewhere, filming content, meeting up with influencers, whatever it may be. Now it's like weekends are more sacred, and that's time for our kids. Kristina's led the charge, but we've built almost like an army of nannies and babysitters who have been so helpful. I think one other thing is just being so laser focused during the day, at night, or in the mornings before they get up. I think we're way more productive than we used to be and more focused, just because we know we don't have the time that we used to, or the hours from 5:30 to 8 p.m. are pretty sacred for us to make sure we get it with our kids and put them down.
Yeah.
We're also a lot better at hiring when we need to hire, because we can't be juggling as much. We can't take on other jobs as much. So when we actually need to hire people, we take it very seriously, and we build our team a little faster. And I think that's really helped Rhoback grow.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to hear about that. I think hiring is one of the key skills. Hiring great people is one of the key skills a leader can have. Talk about how you approach it and what's your hiring process.
I agree. It is the most important thing we can do, especially at this phase, is bring in exceptional talent. We take it very seriously. Kristina, Kevin, and I, we all get the opportunity to talk to every candidate that makes it to a final round. A lot of it is, at that point, mostly selling them on our vision, on Rhoback, but also really rooting out or seeing if the person is passionate in their work, passionate about the brand, is able to bring a work ethic to the table that is demanded here at Rhoback, but also has the awareness and the collaborative ability to jump in, figure things out, partner with our teammates, and have a lot of fun doing it. But we've definitely evolved. We've gotten, I think, better at it. We still have a ways to go till we're perfect interviewers. I don't know if you can ever be perfect, but it's something we put a lot of time in, and it's super important because we rely on every single team member to bring the brand forward right now. If we have one person who's unproductive or not working, or can't work or quits, or for whatever reason, it would really impact the brand. So critical we get the right people in.
You started this business, right? And I know you were doing some side gigs, which I love that strategy. Any oh shit moments? Oh God, I know running a company, you have to do this, or talk about that.
There are so many. I can start, Chris, but you've got more than me probably because you were the first one on it. And the camper days. So this camper, luckily, we convinced this, wooden boat building company, Chesapeake Lightcraft. They're incredible. We asked them to donate a wooden teardrop camper kit to us. That's when we tasked my dad, who's a woodworker. We said, hey, if you could contribute one thing to this business, could you please build us this camper? And sure enough, he did it 200 hours later. So we took that thing up and down the East Coast. We would sleep in that thing. Kristina would lead the charge. There's a queen size bed in it. We'd sleep in there with our dog Bunker. Most of the stops on that camper, the only items we were selling were to people who felt bad for us because they found out we were sleeping in there to save money. But there were many times where we would drive that camper, or Kristina would drive the camper to, Walmart parking lots or, campsites to just stay somewhere for cheap, or park it in our friends' driveways on the road. We were very proud of it, but it wasn't a life that we were excited about. But it was a great way to save money. And there were so many days on the road, as Kristina can speak to them, like war stories, where the camper would break down, or we would camp up, set up for shop for a day, and we wouldn't sell one thing the whole day. And we were just itching our head as to what are we really doing here? Many kind of war stories there. I think other ones were, our products, or meeting manufacturers, or just getting turned down over and over again from manufacturers who didn't have time for someone as small as us. So many oh shit moments along the way that we could have stopped in our tracks. But I think the collective support of Kristina, Kevin, myself, us all being kind of positive, optimistic people and naive, we kept each other in it and going. But so many moments. I don't know if Kristina, you have a couple others too.
I'll tell like a story. With the camper, we had like a surfboard on top. Matt actually built the surfboard for me, and it said, "Will you marry me, Kristina?" And that's how I proposed. And we would put it on the camper, and Mr. Loftus helped strap it to the camper one day. And I was, driving back from like a weekend of selling like a hat, and I was like sad, alone with Bunker in the car. And on the highway, I saw the surfboard was like coming off the top of the camper. And I was like, really, it was stressful. And I was like on my last, I started to just cry. And like the whole weekend was just depressing for me. And I was in a weird area, like unsafe. I had to pull over, figure out this surfboard. I couldn't figure it out. I had to like stuff it in the back of the pickup truck. Bunker was like crouched on the floor under the surfboard. And it was just like a really stressful time. And it all kind of felt like it was crumbling down on me. But because Matt and Kevin were able to pick me up, like I kept going. I could have seen myself like just quitting at that time. Like everything just felt like it was going wrong. But I just commend Matt and Kevin for being positive during like when I was down, they were up. So that's just like a story. Like in the beginning, it just felt like things weren't going to work out. And it ended up being totally fine. But that was just like a small anecdote.
Yeah.
Kevin and I say it all the time. If Kevin or I were on Rhoback first full time, there's no chance we would have made it off the ground. It took Kristina being on it full time and us just trying to support her to kind of break through those, at least that first year.
Yeah. Was that a financial decision for both you, Matt, and Kevin? Just have some income coming in, and while you get
Yeah, we were still paying off school debt, and I had to either Kristina or I had to get a job, and we wanted to put our eggs in the Rhoback basket. So Kristina jumped on Rhoback first from our household. I got to be at Accenture, which was great. They were so accommodating. They knew about Rhoback. They put me on retail projects. I got great experience there and was able to make some money coming out of business school. But as soon as we saw it was unsustainable and we were able to pay ourselves, I think it was $30K a year. That was our goal. That was kind of 2 years in. That's when a year and a half in, that's when Kevin and I jumped on board as well full time. Yeah. And from then on, it was all in. 3 of us going all out. We started to pay ourselves slightly more each year. Our first employees, we were paying them more than the 3 of us. So it's been a long road, but we're fortunate to have kind of gone through it and figure that part out. And now we're luckily we've got a much bigger company on our hands now.
A shout out to Accenture, because a lot of companies, especially of that size, will not. They do not like you working outside of their corporate umbrella. There's even employee policies or you can't have a second job. So I think it's so ignorant, because you're a better Accenture employee because you have Rhoback or involved in Rhoback in the beginning, right? And a co-founder, and you're going to do better things at Accenture because of stuff you're learning at Rhoback.
Yeah, agreed. Accenture was great. Even the clients I was working with were excited about Rhoback, and they're still supportive to this day. But it was fun. I would flex travel and fly wherever Kristina was with the camper. So Kristina would pack me up for the week. I didn't go home all summer. I would just go to wherever this camper was that Kristina had it each week. The client would wonder why my eyes were red each day and wearing the same stuff, dirty clothes each week. But it was a fun grind.
Oh, that's interesting. Kristina, I'd love to hear your advice to today's young entrepreneur. If you were starting Rhoback today or whatever company an entrepreneur is going to start, what advice would you have for them?
Yeah, Matt, you kind of alluded to this, but I have 2 pieces of advice I always say. One, just because you don't have experience in like a certain industry or world doesn't mean you can't do it. Your ignorance to certain things could actually be your superpower. When we first started Rhoback, we had no idea how to build product or anything about the apparel industry, retail, selling product. And that to me was our superpower. We didn't know the barriers. And so we were able to kind of they didn't exist to us. So we just kept forging forward, and we were never discouraged because we didn't know things were so hard. And I think that could be a superpower going into an industry that you don't know much about. And so if you're passionate about something, follow that passion. And number 2 is stay laser focused as you're building your venture or your idea. There's going to be a lot of noise around you. Some people won't believe in you. Some people will tell you to do X, Y, and Z that doesn't really follow your focus. Try not to listen and try to keep focused on your goals. Because if we had listened early in the beginning, to go into pro shops early or go to wholesale early, we wouldn't have been able to be as powerful as we are in the e-commerce direct-to-consumer space and gather all this data about our customers to make us, more more dangerous going into wholesale now. And, we say maybe we should have gone to wholesale and brick and mortar sooner and pro shop sooner. But now we have all this data about our customer. We can choose more wisely where we're going to put our product and who we're going to put it in front of in the world. And so we, not listening to, the wholesale model early on allowed us to be, we think, hopefully be more successful now that we have more data.
Yeah, having recently ordered my aperitif shirt
Nice.
polo, it was very interesting on the checkout because it asked a bunch of demographic questions and how I heard about you guys and all that. So yeah, I thought that was, having done a lot of data driven marketing and sales analytics throughout my career. So I really I thought that was great. So
yeah, and not to knock wholesale for when you're starting out. That was just our journey. But if you want to start that way, just follow your goals. Your focus is kind of the message.
Yeah. Matt, anything to add in terms of advice for the next generation of entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think getting a support system around you, whether that be your co-founders, whether that be, your friends, your classmates. We had our whole UVA Darden community that it felt like it took a village to start Rhoback. We relied on our friends and students and faculty and alumni to test the product, buy our first few rounds of it, give us feedback. It was almost like we couldn't believe the support that we got from the UVA and Charlottesville community. Yeah. It was very natural that we started the brand here after school. And we could see why, Nike started in the University of Oregon's backyard, or Under Armour in the University of Maryland's. That's been almost a cheat code for us to have the support of the University of Virginia behind us. But I would say any entrepreneur, get a support system. If it's not a co-founder who can help you in those dark times or tough challenges, friends, family that are supporting you, it goes a long way when there's so many things that kind of hit the fan along the way.
You guys talked about, next you're going to test or launch a brick and mortar strategy. Anything else on the horizon for Rhoback?
Yeah. So brick and mortars. So actually, I'll say it in kind of, well, there's really no order because these are all, really important channels to us. Building out our women's line, opening up our first store this year, and then building out, getting the operations perfected, and kind of scaling from there into the years to come with more stores, and then wholesale and pro shops. And Matt, did you want to kind of speak more to that?
Yeah, you nailed it. Those are the kind of 4 big growth areas. We now have to make sure we stay laser focused on each one. We're kind of have the right team in place to take on each challenge. And then the long-term one would be international. We're seeing a lot of, our competitors who are having success going to, whether it be Southeast Asia or maybe some English-speaking countries in Europe or South Africa or, absolutely Canada and Mexico. So these are exciting long-term, opportunities for us that keep us so passionate about the business. Kristina, Kevin, and I, we're proud that we haven't raised any money to date. We own the company 33, but that also is another opportunity for us. We spoke earlier about how we're not big personalities, we're not big personality or influencer-led brands right now from inside, but that is something that we would consider is bringing on an investor who can help us in terms of brand recognition, bring on some big names onto the brand. So we do have a few conversations going there with a potential minority investment, but we'll keep you posted if any of those pan out.
Yeah, no, I love that. I usually ask 2 questions at the end of every episode, so I'll split them up. You guys can decide who answers which one. The 2 questions are going to be, what advice do you have for a recent college graduate as they navigate their first post-college job and career journey? And the second one's going to be, while everyone can be a leader, those that want to take the leadership journey where they actually have a team underneath them that they're responsible. Once they get that first managerial role, what advice would you have for them? So
yeah,
the recent college graduate one first.
Sure. I'll take that one. I think my advice would be to speak up. You come to your whatever job you're going into with a very unique perspective, and your whatever generation you're coming from, it's probably unique to that organization. Coming right out of college, and so you have ideas and you have perspectives that are different, and that could actually be very helpful to that brand or that industry or that company. And we have interns that are working here this summer, and we perk up when they speak in meetings because we're trying to speak to their generation, and they are the front lines of that generation, and they're telling us exactly what resonates with them. And what better way to help our marketing tactics and strategy than to hear it from their own voice. And so I just encourage you guys to speak up, because your opinion is important and valuable.
Second question on the leadership advice for a first-time manager. I would recommend two things. One that's worked well and doesn't, it's not everyone's leadership style, but for at least Kristina, Kevin, and I, practicing servant leadership and leading by example, being willing to do anything and everything for your team, work for your team mentality. We found that that's just it's natural for us. It's authentic for us, but it's been a great way of kind of empowering your team to adopt the same mentality for their, direct reports or cross-functional, partners. So that's been one big thing for us. And then the second is, if you're just starting as a new leader and any of your direct reports, I would say, get a meeting together and align on, figure out what your, team members' short-term goals are, long-term goals are, working style, their preferences on how they receive feedback. Ask some big questions early, so you can be more equipped to kind of help them navigate their career journey and empower them and give them the right opportunities along the way. That's been one that I've figured out more recently, and I think it's been helpful for me. And then last thing, I think we're seeing AI come into the workforce so quickly. That's one thing I'd recommend for anyone, whether you're starting out, your job search or a recent college grad or a leader or, wherever you are in a company, is get really good at prompting AI. And you'll find you can add value in places that maybe you didn't know you could.
Yeah. That's great advice. I love the that AI addition too. It's just game changing, and it's just the speed of change is just crazy. Well, Kristina and Matt, so honored that you came on the Corporate Couch. Kristina, it's great to meet you, and Matt, you've done very proud of you. I know your parents are, and you've done great things. So, thank you both for coming on the Corporate Couch today.
Jeff, thanks for having us. We're honored to be here and to spend this time with you.
Thank you, Jeff. So great to see you, and especially in this environment. Thanks for allowing us on.
And Matt, I may ask one more question. Who was the better kickball player, myself or your father?
Depends who you ask. But I was kickball, softball. I hear stories, but I think my dad would actually say that you trumped him. You take the W there.
Yeah, he's very kind to me, believe me. All right, thank you both again.
Thanks,
Thank you, Jeff.
I just love talking to Kristina and Matt. First married couple on the podcast at the same time. That was so good. I mean, I really doing research on them it's like trying to find I don't know, Jack the Ripper, right? They never found him.
Because what are they? They're unassuming, right?
Right.
They don't
the most.
out.
I mean, sparse LinkedIn profiles. There's nothing about them on the website. You do searches on them, but they're so good together. And they're two of the three co-founders of Rhoback. I mean, and obviously, Kristina and Matt met at the GE Financial Management Leadership Program. Which is a highly esteemed program. And I think I actually interviewed to get in there out of college, and I did not. So there you go. I still remember the interview at lunch with one of the senior VPs. I sweated through a T-shirt and my shirt and my suit jacket, I think, because he was just asking me questions that I had no freaking idea how to answer. But anyhow, it's not about me. But it's just, they lead with no ego. They're servant leaders. I mean, and it just, they started this idea. They said, your ignorance can be your superpower.
Superpower.
The three of them had no idea what how to start an apparel company. I mean,
and they didn't even know for a while there was going to be an apparel company. Remember that he said that he and Kevin tried dozens of other ideas, and he was glad that none of them worked out.
Yeah, Kevin Hubbard, their other co-founder. But just God, it's just so great, and the story Matt played golf with Steph Curry before Dick Vitale called him, one of the greatest college clutch player that Dick has ever seen. So he played golf against Steph before, he was the Steph Curry, one of the greatest college and pro basketball players of all time. And Matt also said he hasn't returned his call in 10 years to play golf, but I understand that, but who knows? Kristina driving that camper through the East Coast.
Do what you got to do.
Sleeping in it with Bunker, their Rhodesian Ridgeback dog, which became Rhoback, right? And, Kristina even said she was doing the website stuff even 3 years ago. And, they were founded in 2016. We recorded this in 2025. So, I mean, just it's so good. Everything about them I just loved. And, and I know Matt comes from great parents because that's how I got them to get in the interview. But Joe, what was your take on the episode?
They were an amazing couple, and I could just listen to you talk to them for a long, long time. If there were any two people, founders of a company, that deserved each other, you could tell they just absolutely loved each other and support each other, and are you said the right word, unassuming. They would never promote themselves over the product or over each other. They just seem like an amazing couple. One of the things that they did that Kristina mentioned a little bit, and I don't want to trivialize or the amount of work that they put into the company, because obviously they put a lot of work into tons. They devoted their entire life to that company. But she said that they learned early on that they were going to use Shopify as their main platform. If you're not aware of Shopify, and by the way, Shopify is not a sponsor of this, although we wouldn't mind them if they would be.
Not yet.
So if somebody from Shopify is listening to this and they would like to sponsor an episode, we would love to talk to you. But Shopify is essentially a one-stop shop for setting up a business, and especially setting up an e-commerce business. So they'll set up the web page and the order entry and the inventory control and the product management and vendor relationships and supply chain. They will literally do the whole thing for you. And so that's why it was an easy decision for them. But that says something. If there's any entrepreneurs to be out in our audience that you think you've got an idea for something like that you want to sell dingle flops, whatever dingle flop is, and you can make the best dingle flops in the world, and you're going to put them on the internet to sell them, you have no excuse, because there are tools out there. If it's not Shopify, it's GoDaddy, it's something else. You have so many tools at your fingertips right now, so much more than what there was even 10, 15 years ago. There is no excuse not to start a business and not to be successful at it. Even if you just Google for doing your research, there are so many things that can happen right now. In Google now, you don't even have to know how to spell the thing that you're searching for. It will suggest it, or it'll figure it out, or it'll figure out a synonym for it. It's just amazing, the tools that are available to you right now. You have no excuse but to start your business and be successful. And that's my challenge to the would-be entrepreneurs of our audience. It was a great interview. I loved him. Could listen to him all day.
Yeah, I was very honored they came on the podcast for sure. So it was very fun. Joe, what's going on in the life of Joe right now?
I tell you, I just finished reading a report from the Institute for Unfinished Research, and they concluded that 6 of the 10 people.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Corporate Couch. If you enjoy the podcast, I would love for you to take 2 minutes out of your day to rate us 5 stars and write a review. Please join me next week to learn from another great leader sharing their professional journey and insights.